Hello, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well, and I am hanging out here down by my toy shelf with my little boy Murph here. Got a little Murph plush. Even being a little boy, and being a little boy, the character from Star Trek Prodigy, because I wanted to have a quick little discussion around a little discourse that came out of my comment section for my review of Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, which recently wrapped up. And the discussion was around a criticism that I had of a scene that occurred in the penultimate episode of the series, where the character of Dahl, the lead male character of the show, gives a surprise kiss to the lead female character, Gwen. And it's meant to be a sort of moment that signals the, I don't want to say beginning of their romance, but like clearly signal like these two might have some romantic chemistry in the show.
Whoa, what are you doing?
I'm so sorry.
And it does sort of pay out that in the finale of the show, they do sort of have a romantic scene together. They at least might end up boyfriend and girlfriend. We'll see where that relationship goes over the season. But my problem with the scene was that Dahl came up behind her and surprised Gwen with the kiss. It wasn't something she anticipated. He just did it. You know, it's not a new scene. We've seen this in tons of media, the surprise kiss on a girl that a guy happens. And it's been done in kid shows, it's been done in adult shows, it's been done in numerous media. And my issue was that this is a moment where Dahl is breaching her consent and sort of surprising this on her, not giving her a chance to say no, she wouldn't want the kiss. And it ends up fine. You know, she seems to be surprised by it, but takes it okay, and they keep going. But it still is something he did without her awareness or checking in on whether it was her desire. And it was, again, a breach of consent on Dahl's part. When we should, as a culture, kind of understand that you don't do that to somebody. You don't breach someone's consent without their awareness. The discussion that I saw in the comments, and I'm not calling anybody out, I'm not angry at anybody, but I found it interesting that there were some people who had good, clear thoughts about my take. They agreed with me, had little nuance in some of the things that I said, had other things like, oh, it's a heteronormative thing in the show, why couldn't they have like a queer romance, something like that, or they didn't buy that, like Dahl and Gwen were a couple or whatever. Numerous different takes that are all legitimate, but and even the criticism of me. But one take that I found interesting, and again, I'm not calling anyone out here, but there was people who said, well, Jessie, when there's supposed to be these magical moments in romance that occur, and there's sometimes the first kiss does just spontaneously happen. It is a thing that's not verbalized, not stopping, can I kiss you right now? It just happens, and that's sort of like unspeakable, ineffable moment where two people find attraction between themselves. And I found this interesting because I definitely don't agree with that. I mean, number one, there is a difference between, two people who have had a romantic situation, are in a room together, and are sitting next to each other where there's like some sort of like possible expectation of it might end up romantic, but no one's really sure. Like, I've been in those situations, like first dates, second dates, whatever. You're like, are we gonna kiss? I don't know. And you're scared to say something. You just kind of look at each other. But there's a difference between a moment like that and a guy coming up behind a girl and kissing her without her being aware that even an expectation. Like, she's getting ready to like go off and fight aliens at this moment. She's not ready to like get romantic. They have had no romantic, like clear romantic moments before this, like a date or something. They've had moments where like, oh, there's some attraction here, but there's never been like clear, like, oh, this is romantic and might lead somewhere moments. So this is just very much a surprise for Gwen. And I think there's a very clear difference between those. And I think people were confusing that as what they were talking about, this magical moment that they were thinking in their head. But even beyond that, even if that was the case, it kind of underlines this kind of assumption that we have in our society that none of us really talk about. And that is the idea that consent is inherently at odds with romanticness or sexiness, those magical moments. And I would very much disagree. Because consent, in many ways, actually, I think is romantic, is magical, is a lovely, warm, caring thing to do. In those moments, like even on first dates, some of the cutest moments that I've had with a guy and a girl, but actually it's weirdly with men that I've dated, the cutest moments are like when a guy's like, can I kiss you? Like, it just like, they're like, they're just so scared for a moment, and I'm like, yeah, please do. It's just like, it's a cute moment and endearing and romantic and adorable. And we tend to think that, like, asking is like a bad thing. It ruins the moment. Learning what people want and learning what people enjoy in romance, in sex, in anything, I think is romantic. Not to get too dirty, but some of the best sex that I've had has been like us figuring things out and asking each other what we like. There's this like toxic masculine culture that you see a lot of people is like, yeah, you just dominate a woman and just do whatever you want to her. It's like, it doesn't lead to good sex for either party. Yeah, I was about to say like, oh, it doesn't lead for good sex with women. It doesn't lead to good sex with anybody. Because no one can get into it because you're not talking about it. And I think it comes from a lot of like baked in assumption that women are like owned by men. But it does have this underlying sort of like thing in our society of like women's bodies, women themselves being it's okay to breach that consent because it's a magical moment. Women create these magical spaces. But it doesn't have to be between men and women, because I think it also just goes between anybody and any sexuality, and any type of coupling pairing, or any type of pairing. It doesn't matter if it's couple. It's just consent makes better sex, and it makes better relationships too. And it can be magical. In fact, it is magical. And it is also something that I haven't been saying this whole video, it is required. We tend to see like things being like, we don't speak it, we don't talk about it. But we should, and it makes it better, and it is required. We should normalize that. So, sorry to talk about sex based off a kid's show, but, this is YouTube. This video is not made for kids. I clearly have to mark that every time I upload a video. But I also think it's a good thing to teach kids, not necessarily to have sex at their age, but that consent is a thing that is beautiful, is awesome, it makes for romance, it makes for magic, and is a good thing. And it is why that scene in Star Trek Prodigy specifically disappointed me. Because it showcased a perpetualization of a problem that I think we've had a lot of discussion about as this culture, but I'm still seeing perpetuated in kids media, which is the type of media that I would hope would be the first to eliminate that sort of problem within it. Adult shows will have a lot of baked in assumptions about things, but when we teach kids stuff like this, kids haven't normalized that yet. They don't know these assumptions yet. They're learning them. And a show like that is teaching that to them. Again, end of the world, no. Biggest thing ever, no. I'm not like saying Star Trek Prodigy should be canceled and it's the worst thing ever. I love Star Trek Prodigy. But it was just a moment that was like, disappointing. I think we can do better. Because consent is cool. Consent is romantic. Consent is magical. And consent is required. It's all of those things. So, yeah. Just kind of wanted to talk about that.